Hi, welcome back to ODE YouTube channel. Today I'm going to make the swatches for these ink bottles. These will be 10 ink swatches and they are for the full Kaweco ink collection. So they sent me these inks some time ago, and we have here all the colors, and that's what I'm going to do next. And then after some time, after I have all the swatches made, I can start making the full reviews on each ink. But because I think that the process is fun, and if I have to do it, maybe the better thing is to just do it on camera, and if you enjoy it, it will be nice. At least when I did this before in some other videos, it seems that people have enjoyed that, so that's what I will do. So I will change the camera and I'll be back right now. And so here I am again with some jars of water, with the bottles over here, and with a pipette, some paper tissue and my Victorinox knife to make the swatches, because that's the way I do them. And so let's start, and we'll go through all these and you'll get to watch the whole process. So the first ink that we have here they are not put for any special order. I just chose them, and while I was lining up the pieces of paper, this was the order that I came up. There's no specific order. So the first one is this. This is the Kaweco Paradise Blue, which is a turquoise ink. This bottle is still sealed, but it's spilled in the way, in the post. So now let's open it. When you uncap it, you see the seal is torn, and now you can access the ink. So let me put it here. What I do, no, here it is a little better, but this way you cannot see it. Okay, let me check. Let's put it here. Okay, this is now in frame. And what I do is just to pick a couple of drops of ink, maybe 3, put the rest here. This pipette will go to the jar to be cleaned. Let me remove the ink from the way, and let's spread the first ink. This is the Kaweco Paradise Blue, and it is a turquoise ink. I already used every Kaweco ink, but it was in the form of ink cartridges, so this is the first time I'll do the real review on video. I reviewed all these in my blog some years ago, but now, based on the cartridge, now I'll do it based on the bottles. So, Kaweco Paradise Blue. Let's go to the next one. And now we'll go to this one, which is the... Let me change the lighting just a little bit. This is the Royal Blue. I have some problems with color balance with my phone and this lighting, but that's what it is. That's why the ink reviews are not that perfect to see on camera, just because of different settings and light balance and so on, and calibration. But this is the blue, and this is the most famous Kaweco color, I would say, because this is the Royal Blue is the color of each Kaweco cartridge that comes inside each Kaweco pen. And this got stuck, a little seal of the bottom of the cap. Let me just screw that in again. Okay, now it's inside. And let's do this one. So the same procedure applies. I will take a few drops, 1, 2, 3, put the excess inside the ink, the pipette goes to be cleaned. Yes, I clean the pipette between each of these swatches, but then I edit those parts out, and now this happened, and it happens sometimes that I dropped a few drops of ink outside, but I think it will not be a problem. Let's just do it, because this color will get over the little spillage. And so this is a very nice rich blue, and yes, it does have a kind of a purple hue to it. Now let's go to the other color. And the next color in this list is the Kaweco Sunrise Orange. An interesting orange ink. I have to say that I like orange inks. I use them quite often. I prefer to use orange than red most of the times. 1, 2, 3. Let's put the rest inside and take this away. Okay, I didn't spill any orange ink, which is great. So far, at least. And put that away. The knife again. I prefer to do this with the knife, because when I do it with the Q-tips, I think it's less real, because with Q-tips it puts a very uniform ink swatch, and in this way I think it has more depth. I prefer to see that, and it will react more as it will react on the pen, because with the pen there are places where there is more ink and places where there is less ink. However, when you do it with a pen, you never get these or almost never get these very spectacular colors or shadings or whatever, because most of the times you don't use such a wet nib. At least I don't. I use F nib, so I don't see this kind of variation. These ones are all still very wet. Now, Kaweco Caramel Brown, and I like not caramel. I don't like caramel actually, but I like brown inks. And this is a kind of brown that I like. I like this Kaweco ink, and I will just show it. Okay, it has those spots of blue ink in this paper, but I don't think they will show up really intensely in the final swatch. The knife again, and let's spread it. I like this brown ink because it's really a dark brown, and I like it. And one of my favorite characteristics on dark inks is that they don't, not in dark ink, sorry. My favorite characteristic on brown inks is that they don't have a very strong red undertone. I prefer the inks that are more on the brown gray or even brown yellow, not so much in the brownish red, and this is really a brown ink. I would say this is a true one. Now, the next one will be the Kaweco Ruby Red. Red ink is one color of ink that I don't really have the need to get more. I have lots of red ink in my home because I have some very huge vintage bottles of 1 liter. I think I have 3 liters of red ink at least. So I do not need it, but it's always fine. And I think that this is very useful to be able to test the full range of colors of a particular brand, in this case from Kaweco, because we don't have that chance always. And to get this, I got this from Kaweco. Sometimes we only can get these if we buy or we get ink samples. This is a nice red, although it has some kind of it has a magenta tone, but because it's more on the dark side, it's not very visible. It looks more like a velvet red than a real magenta, but it is a red ink, and I kind of like this red ink. The next ink I have to show you is, I think, the least favorite color of ink I can think of, which is gray inks. I think gray inks they look like very unsaturated blacks, so I don't really enjoy them. They don't look good to me. But let's take a look at these Kaweco Smokey Grey, because I don't remember anymore how it used to look. I don't have it for a long time now. And let's take a look at these. Although, as far as I remember, this is a grey ink that is dark enough to write with. It doesn't look like black, but it's not very faint. The knife again, and let's do our patterns here. One thing that I like with doing this with the knife, as I told you, the effects with a nib are not these dramatic, but is when you do this with a knife, you can predict how an ink will shade. So we can guess that maybe this ink will shade a lot. The Paradise Blue may also shade a little bit, but for example that orange doesn't shade that much. But that will be all talked about when I go to the ink reviews. And the next color is the Kaweco Pearl Black, which is a very simple, well-made black, which reminds me of another very famous black that I quite enjoy. So I think there is, about this ink, there is all of it is to be liked, at least for me, by me. It's not a permanent black, it's not any of those special inks, but it is really good for what it is. I don't look for amazing qualities on blacks, I just want them to be black and to behave well on paper. And now let's see how they do and how they compare with the grey. And the color that I was saying that this Kaweco Pearl Black reminds me of is a little bit the Parker Quink Black. And the Parker Quink Black is a black ink, but it has some strong shades of grey, but because it is quite saturated, you don't see it unless you just compare it to the ink that is more black, or in these places where it shades a little bit. So it is a black ink, it's not the blackest black, but it is a nice one. Now, the Kaweco Palm Green. I also like green inks. The colors of ink that I like are really the turquoise. I like turquoise, I like orange, don't like red so much, don't like blue very much. I don't usually like grey at all. I like brown, and sometimes I like purple, but it depends. And I like green, and I like a lot very dark shades of green, kind of green-black inks. So let's do it. 1, 2, 3 little drops of ink. Put this aside. This video takes a little bit to do, but I hope you can understand this, that this takes a little bit. It's what it is. And one good thing about YouTube is that people can choose if they want to watch a full video or not, because they may not like it, and this way they don't need to see it. I hope you enjoy and you will see. This is a kind of a real green. I like the green tone, it is dark. However, there is lots of ink here. Where it pulls on the paper, it gets really, really darker. And now let's jump for the last two inks. And the next ink will be the Kaweco Midnight Blue, which is kind of, I would say, blue-black. I like the feeling of tearing these seals, these paper seals away. There are people that do this with lots of caution and they just cut these little parts, but I don't really care that much. I care about the ink, and maybe I will cut most part of these because I don't want that hanging there, because I am so clumsy that I will maybe stick these inside the bottle and make a very big mess. There's no need for that. Now, the Midnight Blue, 1, 2, 3, oops, 4 drops. Let's close these, put these away, and knife again. Yes, you can do swatches without knives, you can do it with paintbrush. There are some people that do them with water brushes, like the ones that are used for watercolors, with pens, just painting the ink on the paper. You can do it however you want. I prefer to do it with a knife because I like knives and I like the feeling of doing this, and I think it is beautiful to watch. I hope it is useful also, but at least it is quite beautiful. And now the last ink is the purple one. This is the Kaweco Summer Purple. And again, the same procedure. 1, 2, 3 drops of ink. The rest goes inside the bottle. The pipette goes to the jar. And the bottle will be put aside, and let's see how this final ink works. Sometimes I like purple inks, not for everyday use, not for every situation, but I do some writing in a way that sometimes I need to have to edit my text and to put some notes on the margins or between the lines, and sometimes I like to have some colors that stand out better to see the variations. So these are the swatches, still wet and I'll be back in a while to show them dry. When I say I'll be back in a while, it is a while for me. For you it will be right next, because I will edit the waiting time out. And after waiting some time for them to dry, here you can take a look at all the colors, at all the swatches, and I love to see these. One thing that stands really out is that these inks don't have lots of shading, but let me take them out of that cutting mat just to show them to you a little bit better. So here we have the Paradise Blue, and this ink, yes, it has some shading, and it also looks like it has some kind of a very dark, maybe a very dark blue sheen just on the little edges of where the ink was. Then we will go to this Royal Blue, and let's take a look at how it looks. And this is an ink that has some shading, but really no sheen, not any special property. It is a bluish ink, but it looks more on the purple color here. When I do the ink reviews, I have to spend some extra time in color balance for the video, but just for this, I think this is good enough, because it would be harder to do it in this video. And here you can see the orange, it's quite solid, just some color variation but not much, and it is not a bright orange, it's more like a brownish orange, which is also nice. Then we have the brown, and the brown, the caramel brown, is a very dark brown ink. It doesn't have a lot of shading, and it is really brown, and when you see it comes to the other side a little bit, but don't forget that was a large puddle of water there. You can see it is more on the orangey yellowish side. I really like this caramel brown. Then we go to the Ruby Red, and I will do a review of all these later, so you'll see that on detail. This has almost no shading, and it has a kind of magenta red, as I told you, and here it is compared with the Victorinox handle, and you can see this is more on the red side, and this is a little bit more pinkish. Then we go to the Kaweco Smokey Grey, and as I showed you before, this grey ink, or I showed you now, as I told you, there is a little bit of that blue smear, but you can see that it is a grey dark enough to write with. So maybe not so much with a fine or an extra fine nib, but with other nibs I think this ink will do the job. But why, if you don't like greys, why use the Smokey Grey when you have the pearl black? And you can see it is really a black ink. The shading is very small, so you can have a little bit more on the grey side in the other places where the ink didn't puddle as much, but it is black and it has no sheen that I can see. It's really a black ink. I like it. It may not be the most black of all, but it is black. It works, and I like it a lot. And now, let me put this one there, and let's see the Palm Green, which is a dark green, Of course, if you are using these on a pen, the nib will not be as wet as dropping drops of ink with a pipette, and you have more like this kind of more bright green, but it is a dark green, maybe with just a little hint of blue, but not much. And this is it, very simple with almost no shading. Then we have the midnight blue, and the midnight blue is what I told you, a very dark blue, kind of blue-black, and I like it. It looks like it has some sheen there, not this easy to see. I'll have to look at this with sunlight to see it better, but it is really a very dark blue. Let me just show it next to royal blue, black, and midnight blue. And you can see that midnight blue is really on the way from this one to the black. It's really dark color. And finally we go to Kaweco Summer Purple, which is an interesting purple, more on the bright side. And let me just show it next to the royal blue. I think that has some violet color in it, and compare it also with the Kaweco Ruby Red. So this is a nice color in between. So these are the 10 colors that Kaweco has available on its collection. I think it is quite a complete collection of inks for a brand of pens. Of course, if you are thinking about a brand of inks, these are not that much, but for an ink company, I think this is really, for a pen company, I really think this is quite a good selection, gives you lots of colors to choose from, and I think most of them are quite useful for everyday use. So, this is all I had to show you today, just this simple ink swatching. I hope this was not too long, I hope you are not bored, and I hope we will meet here again soon for another video. So, see you next time. Bye.